People don't listen to the one who talks the most. They listen to the one who speaks with clarity. That one truth can completely change your life. Because in the real world, it's not just about having something to say, it's about being able to say it with confidence, control, and impact. If you can't express your thoughts clearly, people won't take your ideas seriously. They won't wait around to decode what you meant. They'll move on. But when you learn how to speak in a way that's sharp, calm, and real, everything changes. You get heard. You get respected. You get remembered. This isn't about being loud. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the clearest. Whether it's a job interview, a meeting, a conversation with someone you care about, your words can either build bridges or close doors. And this video is here to help you stop shrinking, stop second-guessing, and finally start speaking like someone who knows their voice matters. You're going to learn how to control your voice, structure your message, and carry yourself like someone worth listening to. And you won't need years of experience or perfect grammar to do it. Just simple, daily habits that build confidence, power, and clarity into the way you speak. If you've ever felt ignored, overlooked, or unheard, this is your chance to change that. Watch this until the end. One shift in how you speak can create a massive shift in how you live. Chapter 1. Stop mumbling, start leading. Why clarity wins respect. Every powerful voice in history had one thing in common. It wasn't about the volume, it wasn't about perfect grammar, and it wasn't about using complicated words. It was about clarity. People don't follow those who speak the loudest. They follow the ones who speak with purpose. And if you can train yourself to speak clearly, with confidence and conviction, you can open doors that you didn't even know existed. That's how much power lives inside your ability to communicate. This is not just about talking. This is about becoming someone others trust, someone others listen to, and someone others respect. When you speak, people make instant judgments. Within seconds, they decide if you're someone worth listening to, if your words carry weight, or if you're just making noise. That decision, it's based almost entirely on how you say what you say. Clarity isn't a technique, it's a signal. It tells the world you've got something to say, and that it matters. When you mumble, you shrink. When you trail off, you disappear. And when you sound unsure, people tune out. But when you speak clearly, your presence commands the room, even before your ideas land. The truth is, the world rewards those who are easy to understand. In every interaction, interviews, meetings, relationships, everyday conversations, if people can't hear you, can't follow you, or can't trust what you're saying, you will constantly feel overlooked, even if you have everything it takes to succeed. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are if your words are buried under doubt. It doesn't matter how passionate you are if your message is lost in hesitation. That's why clarity is not optional. It's essential. You don't have to be a loud person. You don't have to be someone who dominates a room. But you do need to be someone who communicates with precision and purpose. Confidence begins with clarity. When you speak clearly, you're not just making it easier for others to understand you, you're proving to yourself that you believe in your voice. That belief becomes a habit, and that habit shapes how you show up in every area of life. When you train yourself to be articulate, you stop second-guessing, you stop holding back, and you stop playing small. You start stepping into rooms like you belong, because you do. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs voices that are clear, steady, and grounded in truth. Many people don't realize they're mumbling. They don't notice how often their words trail off at the end of a sentence, how often they look away while speaking, or how many fillers they use to soften their message. Over time, this becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a barrier. You start thinking, Maybe I'm just not a good communicator. But that's a lie you don't need to carry anymore. You don't need to be born with charisma. You just need to start paying attention to the way you speak and commit to improving it, one sentence at a time. Speaking clearly doesn't mean you have to sound like a public speaker. It means you're present. It means your words match your mind. It means you're speaking from a place of intention instead of fear. Think about it. Every time you've heard someone speak with calm, deliberate energy, you stopped and listened, not because they were trying to impress you, but because their clarity created trust. That's what clarity does. It builds a connection before content even has a chance to land. People listen more when they don't have to work to understand you. And when people listen more, you start to lead without even trying. If you want respect, you need to make your words count. When you mumble, you communicate insecurity. When you're clear, you communicate certainty. It doesn't matter how nervous you feel inside. What matters is what you project outward. Speak like you believe what you're saying, and people will start to believe it too. You don't need to fake confidence. You need to train for it. Clarity is not a gift, it's a skill. And like any skill, the more you practice, the stronger you get. The fastest way to begin this transformation is to slow down when you speak. Take your time, let each word land. Don't rush to get through your sentence. Let your message breathe. That space between your words, that's where confidence is born. It tells the world, I'm not rushing to be heard. I know what I'm saying matters. When you slow down, you allow your voice to carry power. When you slow down, your thoughts line up. Your nerves calm down, and your words come out clean. Another way to sharpen your clarity is by eliminating verbal clutter. Words like, I guess. These are habits of hesitation. They don't make you sound relatable. They make you sound unsure. You don't need to apologize before sharing your thoughts. You don't need to add disclaimers. Speak directly. Speak simply. Speak like someone who knows their voice has value, because it does. And the more you cut the noise, the more people will hear what truly matters. Body language plays a role too. Your posture, your eye contact, your facial expressions, all of it reinforces or undermines what you're saying. If your words are strong, but your posture is slouched, and your eyes are down, people will feel a mismatch. But when you stand tall, make eye contact, and speak clearly, your entire presence becomes aligned. That's when people start paying attention, not just to your words but to your message. Because your energy matches your intent. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you command through presence, through clarity, through consistency. When people know you as someone who speaks with confidence, they come to trust your voice. They turn to you for answers. They listen when you enter a room, not because you asked them to, but because you've earned it. And that starts with deciding you're done playing small. You're done hiding behind quiet tones and unsure words. You're done shrinking to make others comfortable. From now on, you speak with clarity, not to impress, but to express. Not to perform, but to lead. So today, make a commitment to train your clarity. Practice reading out loud. Record yourself speaking. Ask people you trust for feedback. Watch your posture. Speak slower than usual. Pause. Finish your sentences with power. Speak like you respect your own voice, and others will follow. This isn't about becoming someone else. This is about unlocking the version of you who's been buried under doubt. And the more clearly you speak, the more fully that version of you comes to life. This is the beginning of a new chapter in how you show up. No more hiding. No more mumbling, no more playing small. Speak like a leader. Speak like your words matter. Speak like you're already the person you're becoming. Because clarity wins respect, and you're ready to be respected, not just for what you say, but for how powerfully you say it. Chapter 2. Eliminate the fear of sounding stupid. You don't need permission to speak. You need courage. The kind of courage that doesn't wait to feel ready. The kind of courage that shows up even when your voice shakes. If you're holding back because you're afraid of sounding stupid, understand this: your silence is costing you more than your mistakes ever will. The fear of saying the wrong thing has silenced more great minds than actual failure ever could. And if you don't start speaking your truth, you'll keep watching opportunities pass you by, not because you weren't smart enough, but because you were too afraid to be seen. Every time you stay quiet when you wanted to speak up, every time you nod along while hiding what you actually think, you're reinforcing the idea that your thoughts aren't valuable. You begin shrinking your personality, doubting your intuition, editing your voice in real time, trying to make sure you don't mess up. But that's not communication, that's performance. That's fear disguised as politeness. And the longer you carry that fear, the more it eats away at your confidence, your energy, and your ability to connect with others. Confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from participation. It comes from showing up, saying what you mean, and trusting that even if you stumble, you'll learn faster by doing than by hiding. The idea that you have to sound impressive to be taken seriously is one of the biggest lies people carry. It makes you overthink everything you say. You start analyzing every word, judging your own thoughts before they even leave your mouth. You worry about sounding unqualified, being misunderstood, or being laughed at. And that overthinking creates tension in your body, hesitation in your voice, and self-doubt in your message. But the truth is, the smartest people in the room are not always the ones using the biggest words. They're the ones who speak with honesty, clarity, and confidence, even when they don't have all the answers. If you want to eliminate the fear of sounding stupid, you have to stop chasing approval and start chasing growth. Speak to express, not to impress. The people who get remembered are not always the ones who said it perfectly. They're the ones who said it with conviction. Think about the people you admire, the ones who inspire you. They're not flawless speakers. They're real. They're human. They own their voice. They make mistakes, but they don't let those mistakes define them. That's the kind of energy that draws people in. What's holding you back is not your ability to speak well. It's your belief that your words must always be flawless to be valid. You don't need to sound like a public speaker. You don't need to be poetic or charismatic. You just need to be authentic. Speak from where you are. Speak like you trust yourself. Because the more you speak, the more confident you become. The more confident you become, the more clearly you express your thoughts. It's not the other way around. Waiting to feel confident before speaking is like waiting to be fit before going to the gym. It doesn't work that way. Start with small conversations. Say what you think, even if your voice shakes a little. Share your ideas in meetings, even if they feel incomplete. Speak up in group settings, even if your hands get sweaty. What matters is that you start. Every time you push through that fear, you're teaching your brain that you can survive discomfort. You're building resilience. You're training yourself to lead. And slowly the fear that once controlled you starts to lose its grip. Your voice stops trembling. Your words start flowing. And your message starts landing. It's not about pretending to be fearless. It's about refusing to be controlled by fear. People don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. They need to hear your perspective, your experience, your truth. You have something valuable to offer, but it will never reach others if you're constantly filtering it through fear. Speak like what you have to say matters, because it does. You don't need to speak like anyone else. Your power is in your authenticity, your strength is in your sincerity, and your impact is in your ability to show up, even when it's hard. One of the most important shifts you can make is to stop focusing on how you sound and start focusing on how you want others to feel. When you speak from your heart, people feel it. When you stop hiding behind polished sentences and just say what you mean, people connect with you. That's the secret to powerful communication. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about speaking with intention. When you lead with truth instead of fear, your presence becomes magnetic. People listen because they trust the energy behind your words. That's where confidence comes from. It's not about being flawless, it's about being fearless. And here's the most liberating part. Everyone has sounded awkward at some point. Everyone has tripped over their words, said the wrong thing, or blanked out mid-sentence. It's part of the process. No one's keeping score but you. The more you normalize the discomfort, the faster you grow past it. Stop treating speaking as a test to pass and start treating it as a skill to develop. You're not here to prove yourself. You're here to express yourself. That shift alone can free you from years of mental pressure. You will never sound perfect every time, and you don't need to. What you need is the courage to keep speaking anyway, because confidence is built through action, not analysis. Speak when your hands shake. Speak when your heart races. Speak when the fear is loud. That's how you teach your brain that your voice is strong enough to handle the moment. And once you cross that line, you'll never go back. You'll speak with clarity, not because you never feel fear, but because you learned to move forward anyway. Your voice is your power. Your message is your responsibility. And your fear, it's just a signal that you care. Don't run from it. Use it. Let it sharpen your focus. Let it remind you that you're doing something meaningful. Then take a breath and speak your truth. Not perfectly, just honestly. Because the world doesn't need more perfect speakers. It needs more real ones. And if you can find the courage to be one of them, you'll not only eliminate the fear of sounding stupid, you'll replace it with the power of being heard. Chapter 3. Train your thoughts before you train your voice. If your mind is chaotic, your words will be too. Clear speaking starts with clear thinking, and once you understand that, everything changes. You stop trying to fix the surface and start working from the root. You stop forcing your words to sound polished, and instead begin shaping your thoughts into something powerful, honest, and intentional. That's the turning point between just talking and truly communicating. The most articulate people aren't born that way. They've simply trained their thoughts to align with their message, and that training is something anyone can start today. When you speak, what people hear is not just the words coming out of your mouth, it's a reflection of how you think. If your thoughts are scattered, your message will come out unclear. If your ideas are half-formed, your speech will sound hesitant. That's why before you train your voice to sound confident, before you work on pacing or tone or delivery, you must build the habit of shaping your thoughts clearly in your own mind. Speaking is a mirror of your inner clarity, and the more you develop that, the more control you gain over how you're perceived, how your message lands, and how deeply you connect. It's easy to get caught up in surface-level tactics, learning to pause more, improving your tone, adding emphasis, but none of those truly work if the ideas behind your words aren't clear. You can only fake confidence for so long. Real confidence comes from being in control of what you're saying and why you're saying it. You can feel the difference when someone is speaking from a well-organized mind. Their words don't just fill space, they move people, they lead, they inspire. And that ability is not about being perfect with language, it's about being intentional with thought. When your thoughts are organized, your speaking becomes sharper, smoother, and more focused. You stop rambling, you stop over-explaining. You start delivering your message in a way that makes people stop and pay attention. It's not about being robotic or rehearsed. It's about speaking from a place of clarity, where every word carries weight and nothing feels random or uncertain. That level of clarity only comes when you begin the habit of thinking deliberately before speaking. Not for hours, not obsessively, just a moment of mental alignment before your words leave your lips. The reason this is such a breakthrough is because it removes the pressure to perform. You don't have to act confident. You don't have to memorize lines. You simply think clearly, and your words naturally follow that pattern. People think being articulate is about using impressive vocabulary or speaking with a polished accent. It's not. It's about how clean your thoughts are before they ever turn into sentences. That's where the power is. That's where you separate yourself from everyone who's just winging it, hoping their message lands. Clarity isn't luck, it's discipline. Start paying attention to the way your thoughts form. When you speak, are you reacting on impulse? Are you scrambling to find words while talking? Are you filling silence just to avoid discomfort? If so, it's not a voice problem, it's a thought problem. You're trying to solve articulation from the outside in, when you should be fixing it from the inside out. Take one breath, one pause, ask yourself, what exactly am I trying to say? That one question can eliminate entire paragraphs of rambling. It pulls you into the present, it gives you a mental map, and from there, your words have direction. When you watch great communicators, what you're really witnessing is mental discipline. They speak with such precision because they've already processed their thoughts before they speak them. They don't rush, they don't panic. They're not perfect, but they're clear. That's what makes them effective. That's what earns them trust. And that's a skill you can train, not a trait you're either born with or without. Every time you pause to collect your thoughts before you respond, you're sharpening your mind. Every time you choose to think before you talk, you're building presence. That presence is what people remember. It's not just about sounding smart, it's about being understood. You can know everything, but if you can't communicate it clearly, it won't matter. If people can't follow what you're saying, your message gets lost. And the world doesn't reward the ideas it can't understand. You have to take responsibility for how you deliver your message. That starts with organizing your mind. Whether you're speaking to one person or 1,000, whether it's a casual conversation or a high-stakes presentation, your ability to think clearly under pressure is what separates you from everyone else who's just reacting. Training your thoughts isn't complicated. It's not about being overly formal. It's about practicing stillness, practicing self-awareness, taking time each day to slow down and process what you think and why you think it. Even 5 minutes a day of reflective thinking, writing down your ideas, journaling, speaking out loud to yourself, builds this muscle. And over time, you'll notice your thoughts become more ordered, your responses become more powerful, and your confidence grows from the inside. You won't need to hype yourself up before you speak. You'll just know your message is strong because your mind is clear. You've probably experienced moments where everything clicked. You spoke with flow, your ideas came out smoothly, and people were fully engaged. That didn't happen by accident. That happened because in that moment, your mind was aligned. Your message was flowing from a clear place. The goal is to make that state your default, not through force but through repetition, by getting into the habit of thinking intentionally every day, because your voice will always follow your mind. And if you want to lead with your words, you must first lead your thoughts. This is the path to lasting confidence, not a fake version where you rehearse a script and hope no one notices your nerves. Real confidence is built when you trust your own thinking, when you know that whatever comes up, you can process it, speak on it, and handle it with composure. That kind of inner calm can't be faked. It comes from doing the work. Training your thoughts is doing the work. And every day you do it, you get sharper, you get stronger, you get more grounded in your voice, and you start to feel that presence people talk about but rarely explain. It's not flashy, it's not glamorous, but it's powerful, because once your mind is clear, your voice becomes unstoppable. You speak less but say more. You don't need to dominate conversations, you guide them. You don't chase attention, you attract it. That's the impact of a trained mind. And that's the real foundation of being articulate. Not tricks, not tactics, discipline, thoughtfulness, awareness. That's what builds lasting clarity. That's what builds communication that moves people. And that's how you become someone who doesn't just speak well, but someone who's truly worth listening to. Chapter 4. People remember how you say it, not just what you say. You can have the best idea in the room, the smartest insight, the most valuable opinion, but if your delivery lacks energy, presence, or emotion, it disappears the second you stop talking. People don't just remember your words, they remember how you made them feel, and that feeling is shaped almost entirely by how you say what you say. That tone in your voice, the timing of your pauses, the fire in your delivery, that's what sticks. That's what earns attention. That's what gets replayed in their minds long after the conversation ends. Your delivery isn't just a detail, it's the bridge between your thoughts and the audience's emotion. And if that bridge is weak, even the strongest message can fall flat. Think about it. You've probably heard someone say something simple, something anyone could have said, but the way they delivered it hit you in the chest. You didn't just hear it, you felt it. That's the power of presence. That's the power of delivery. It's not about being dramatic or theatrical. It's about being connected to what you're saying so deeply that your energy transfers through your voice. That emotional resonance is what makes the difference between forgettable communication and life-changing impact. And the people who master it, they're the ones who get noticed. They're the ones who influence. They're the ones who lead. What separates average communicators from powerful ones isn't access to better words, it's their understanding of emotional expression. You can memorize every tip on public speaking, but if your delivery feels flat, rushed, uncertain, or robotic, the listener disengages. And not because your words weren't smart enough, but because you didn't bring your message to life. When you speak with presence, you show people that you care. When your tone matches your intention, you build trust. And when you put real energy into your voice, people stop scrolling, stop zoning out, and start leaning in. The truth is, you're communicating emotions with every sentence you speak, even when you're not aware of it. Your tone communicates whether you believe what you're saying. Your pacing reveals whether you're grounded or nervous. Your emphasis shows whether you know what matters most. Every part of your delivery shapes how people experience your message. That's why two people can say the exact same sentence and get two completely different reactions. It's not the sentence, it's the energy behind it. You can say, "I believe in you" 100 different ways, but only one of those will land in someone's soul and change how they feel about themselves. That's the version you want to train. That's the version that creates real impact. The good news is, this isn't about being born charismatic, it's about awareness and practice. Every time you speak, you have a chance to sharpen your delivery. It starts by tuning into your own energy. Are you rushing through your words, trying to get it over with? Are you monotone, just reciting lines instead of meaning them? Or are you fully present, speaking like your words matter, because they do? That presence alone shifts the entire room. It creates gravity. It makes your words heavier, in a good way. You don't need to be loud, you just need to be intentional. You need to feel what you're saying. That emotional connection turns ordinary speech into something people remember. The human brain is wired to respond to energy. If your energy is dull, people tune out, even if your message is brilliant. If your energy is grounded, passionate, sincere, people lean in, they feel safe. They trust you, they want to hear more. That's how you win the room, without having to force it. The energy in your delivery shapes how people experience your presence. And when your delivery is aligned with your message, you unlock a kind of authenticity that can't be faked. This is where so many people get it wrong. They focus so much on saying the right thing, on memorizing the perfect script, that they lose their natural tone, their personality, their warmth. They try to sound polished but end up sounding disconnected. The most magnetic speakers don't sound perfect. They sound real. Their voice goes up and down, their pace changes. They let emotion live in their words. That's what makes you human. That's what makes you trustworthy. And that's what makes you unforgettable. So if you've been trying to sound smart, trying to sound correct, trying to sound like someone else, you're robbing your audience of the most powerful part of you, your genuine presence. Everything changes when you shift from trying to be impressive to trying to be expressive. When you speak from the heart, when your tone reflects your passion, when you give yourself permission to slow down, to pause, to emphasize the words that matter, that's when people start to feel something. And when they feel something, they remember you. Not just what you said, but how you made them feel in that moment. That feeling is what creates loyalty, influence, and respect. Even in casual conversations, this matters. You're always leaving an impression. Every word you speak is either building or weakening your credibility. Every sentence is either drawing people in or pushing them away. If you speak in a rushed, disinterested tone, people assume your message isn't important. If you speak with calm, confident energy, people take you seriously. And once they trust your delivery, they start trusting your message. You don't have to say much. You just have to say it well. This doesn't mean you need to overthink every word. It means you need to stay connected to the meaning behind your words. If what you're saying matters to you, let that come through in your tone. If you believe in what you're sharing, let that belief be felt. Don't be afraid to slow down. Don't be afraid to pause. Those moments of silence between your words, that's where the power lives. That's when the audience catches up. That's when the message lands. Those are the moments people remember, long after you've stopped speaking. When you begin practicing this, you start to notice a shift in how people respond to you. They start listening more closely. They start remembering what you say. They start treating your voice like it has weight. And that creates momentum. You begin trusting your own voice more. You begin speaking with more calm, more presence, more authority. You begin owning the space you're in, not with arrogance, but with grounded confidence. And once you step into that space, everything changes. Your conversations change. Your opportunities change. Your self-image changes. All because you stopped focusing only on what you say and started mastering how you say it. The way you deliver your message matters just as much as the message itself. Don't underestimate the power of tone, pace, and presence. Those things are not extras. They're the glue that makes your message stick. And when you master them, your voice stops being background noise and starts becoming a source of influence, inspiration, and change. Speak like it matters, because it does. And speak in a way that people not only hear, but feel, because that feeling is what they'll carry with them long after the words have faded. Chapter 5. Speak with your eyes. Non-verbal confidence. When someone walks into a room and doesn't say a word, yet still commands attention, that's not luck, that's presence. That's what happens when someone understands that communication starts before a single word is spoken. Your body, your expression, your eye contact, it all speaks. And the way you use your eyes, that's one of the strongest tools you have if you want to speak with real confidence and connection. Because people don't just listen to what you say, they look at how you show up. They read your energy long before they listen to your voice. And if you don't learn to use your eyes with intention, you'll keep trying to make an impact with only half your power. When you speak and you avoid eye contact, when your gaze shifts to the floor, or to the side, or everywhere but the person in front of you, something disconnects. It doesn't matter how good your words are. It doesn't matter how smart your message is. If your eyes don't match your conviction, people feel that gap. It creates uncertainty. It makes you seem hesitant, unsure, even dishonest, even if you're not. And you might not even notice it. But they do, because when someone is speaking and looking you straight in the eyes, when their gaze is calm, steady, and present, you feel it in your body. You feel their confidence. You trust their presence, and that trust is built in seconds. That's how fast the human brain decides whether to listen or not. Think about how many conversations go sideways because the energy between the people isn't aligned. Words are being exchanged, but no one's really listening. No one feels connected. One person is checking their phone, the other is half looking around the room, and neither is fully present. That kind of interaction doesn't build trust. It builds distance. And the reason it feels so empty isn't the words, it's the lack of presence, the lack of real attention, the lack of that simple but powerful act of looking someone in the eyes and making them feel seen. When you speak with your eyes, you're telling the other person, I'm here, I mean this, I respect you enough to be fully present. That alone can change the energy of any conversation, any moment. Confidence isn't something you say, it's something you show. And one of the most powerful ways to show it is with your gaze, not a stare, not intimidation, not fake enthusiasm. Just steady, focused presence. The kind that says, I'm grounded in what I'm saying, and I'm not afraid of being seen. That's what real communication looks like. It's two people fully showing up. And when you speak like that, you don't have to yell. You don't have to rush. You don't have to overcompensate. Your calm becomes your strength. Your stillness becomes your authority. And your eye contact becomes your bridge to trust. It's easy to overlook how much of your message is carried through your eyes. But when you start becoming aware of it, everything shifts. You notice when you're speaking, but your eyes are darting around. You catch yourself when your gaze drops mid-sentence because you're unsure. You realize how often you look away out of habit, not because you're rude, but because somewhere deep down, being fully seen feels vulnerable. And that's where the growth is. That's where the power lives. In the willingness to stay open, to hold your gaze, to stand in your words without flinching. That's not just speaking. That's leadership. That's maturity. That's confidence at its most honest level. When someone can look you in the eyes and speak with composure, you remember them. Even if the message wasn't earth-shattering, the delivery sticks. Because eye contact is the fastest way to transmit energy. It creates connection. It reveals truth. And it says something deeper than any phrase ever could. I'm not hiding. I'm not faking. I'm here. That kind of presence doesn't need flashy words. It doesn't need to prove anything. It's powerful because it's real. And the reason people respect those who speak with that kind of presence is because it's rare. Most people hide behind distractions. Most people aren't fully in the room. So when you are, you stand out without trying. If you want to become more articulate, this is one of the simplest, most powerful places to start. Speak with your eyes. Practice being present. When you talk to someone, actually see them, not in a performance way, not in a calculated way, but in a real, grounded human way. Feel the difference between speaking at someone and speaking to someone. Feel what happens when your eyes stay connected, when your energy stays aligned, when your message comes through with both words and presence. That's when you start making real impact. That's when your voice becomes more than just sound. It becomes connection. You don't need to be loud to be clear. You don't need to be animated to be powerful, but you do need to be present, because presence is what people remember. And the fastest way to build presence is to stop letting your attention drift, to stop letting fear make your gaze shrink, and to start owning your space with quiet confidence. Speak like you trust your voice. Look like you believe in your message. And be someone who people don't just hear but feel. That's the kind of communication that changes everything. That's the kind of voice that rises above the noise and makes people stop, listen, and remember you. Not because you shouted, not because you impressed, but because you connected, with presence, with purpose, and with eyes that said, I'm here. This matters, and I'm not afraid to be seen. Chapter 6. Turn insecurity into impact with vocal control. You weren't born to hide your voice. You weren't meant to shrink your tone or hold back the strength of your words just because fear crept in. The ability to control your voice is one of the most powerful skills you'll ever develop, not just for speaking clearly, but for owning your presence, unlocking your confidence, and showing up like someone who believes they belong in every room they walk into. Your voice is more than sound. It's identity. It's energy. It's influence. And when you learn how to shape it, support it, and direct it with precision, everything about the way people respond to you begins to shift. A shaky voice doesn't always mean you're nervous. Sometimes it just means you've never been trained to support it. A quiet, fading tone doesn't mean you lack ideas. It usually means you haven't yet learned how to breathe with intention, project with purpose, and speak with strength. This isn't about volume. It's not about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being someone who knows how to carry a message all the way from the inside of their chest to the ears of everyone listening. And when you do that right, people stop and pay attention, not because you forced them to, but because your energy demanded it, without ever needing to raise your voice. The truth is, insecurity leaks through sound. When you speak in a rushed, breathy, or tight voice, the people around you pick up on that energy. They feel that hesitation. They sense that lack of grounding. But when your voice is centered, when it's calm and full and steady, you project certainty, even if you're still figuring things out inside. That's the beauty of vocal control. It gives you the ability to send a different message to the world than the one your fears are trying to scream in your head. It gives you the space to choose how you show up, no matter what's going on under the surface. One of the most important shifts you can make in your speaking journey is to stop thinking your voice is fixed. Your voice is not a limitation, it's a tool, and tools can be sharpened. They can be refined. They can be trained. If your voice feels weak or inconsistent, it's not because you're broken, it's because no one ever taught you how to use it. And the moment you stop judging yourself for how you sound, and instead start learning how to control it, you take your power back. You stop being the person who isn't good at speaking, and you become the person who's actively shaping how they show up in the world. That's real progress. It all begins with breath. Most people breathe up high in their chest when they speak, which leads to a shaky, uneven voice that runs out of air halfway through a sentence. But when you breathe low, from your diaphragm, you ground yourself. You create a steady foundation. You give your voice fuel. Just like a fire needs oxygen, your voice needs breath. And not shallow, nervous breaths. Deep, full, intentional breaths that calm your body and power your words. You can feel the difference immediately when you slow down your breathing, focus on your posture, and speak from your core instead of your throat. You're not just improving how you sound, you're calming your nervous system, you're regulating your energy. You're creating the kind of inner stillness that makes your presence feel powerful, even before you say a word. And from that place, you can shape your voice in ways that carry authority, without force. You can lower your tone slightly to command attention. You can vary your pitch to keep people engaged. You can pause to let important moments land. You can emphasize certain words to add meaning. That's what vocal control gives you, the ability to not just say things but to say them in a way that people remember. When you start practicing this daily, everything changes. Your voice gets stronger. Your delivery becomes smoother. You stop second-guessing mid-sentence. You stop holding your breath out of nervousness. You stop letting fear run the show. Because now you're not reacting, you're choosing. You're speaking on your terms. You're letting your voice carry your message instead of your anxiety. And that shift radiates confidence in ways that no motivational quote ever could. Because it's not theory, it's physical, it's real, it's felt. And when people feel that grounded energy in your voice, they don't just hear you, they trust you. You begin to notice it in small moments first. You speak up in a group and your voice doesn't crack. You introduce yourself and feel steady. You explain your ideas without rushing. And those small wins build on each other. They create momentum. They build identity. You start becoming someone who speaks not out of pressure, but out of purpose. Someone who isn't rattled by silence or thrown off by a change in direction. Someone who knows how to breathe, how to pause, how to take control of the space, not with ego but with presence. That's what voice control gives you. Not just better communication, but better command of yourself. This is how you take insecurity and turn it into impact. You don't wait to feel fearless. You don't hope your voice stops shaking. You train it. You strengthen it. You practice speaking with composure, even when your heart is racing. You create new patterns, and as your voice grows stronger, so does your belief in yourself. You realize you don't have to be anyone else to be respected. You don't have to sound like a public speaker or mimic someone else's tone. You just have to show up fully, breathe deeply, speak clearly, and trust that who you are is enough. And the more you do that, the more your voice becomes an instrument of influence. You speak, and people feel it. You share your message, and it carries weight. You step into conversations with a presence that didn't exist before, not because you forced it, not because you tried to sound perfect, but because you finally learned how to align your voice with your truth. And when your voice is aligned with your truth, it becomes unstoppable. This isn't just about speaking better, it's about stepping into the version of yourself that no longer needs to hide, the version that owns their space, the version that turns insecurity into strength, hesitation into clarity, silence into impact. Because when you learn how to control your voice, you don't just change how people hear you, you change how you hear yourself. And that changes everything. Chapter 7. Stop thinking mid-sentence. Organize before you speak. Nothing builds authority like a person who speaks with direction. The moment someone opens their mouth and you can feel that every word has purpose behind it, you immediately pay attention. You feel pulled in. You want to hear what's next. That kind of communication doesn't come from trying to sound smart or rehearsing lines word for word. It comes from learning how to think clearly before you speak. When your thoughts are organized, your speech becomes strong, it becomes structured, and it lands with impact. This is how people separate themselves from the noise, by knowing exactly what they want to say before the words even come out. The reason so many conversations feel awkward, disjointed, or full of hesitation is because the speaker is thinking in real time, trying to figure out what they mean as they speak. And that's where the problem starts. When your thoughts are forming mid-sentence, you're forcing your brain to do two complex tasks at once: create ideas and articulate them. That's what causes those long pauses, the overuse of filler words, the rambling, the abrupt changes in direction that confuse the listener. It's not that the person doesn't have value to share, it's that they haven't yet learned to shape their thoughts before delivering them. And once you do, everything becomes easier. You don't need a perfect script in your mind. What you need is a clear mental headline. One central idea that everything else flows from. That way your speech becomes a path, not a maze. You guide your listener, you walk them from start to finish, and you never leave them wondering, where is this going? That's one of the most powerful ways to build trust. When someone can listen to you and feel like they're in safe hands, like you're in control of your message, and not scrambling to piece it together, they stop bracing themselves and start engaging fully. That's where real connection happens. Thinking before you speak doesn't mean you have to delay or overanalyze. It means you pause for a brief moment, just long enough to ask yourself what your main point is. What are you trying to communicate? What do you want the other person to take away? That split second of mental organization can eliminate so much of the anxiety around speaking, because now you're not guessing, you're not just reacting, you're speaking with direction, and direction creates clarity, which creates confidence. What people love in a communicator is not perfection, it's structure, it's the ability to make a point and support it, the ability to be concise without sounding robotic, the ability to express ideas without drifting into endless tangents. When you stop thinking mid-sentence, you reduce the need to clean up your words after they've already left your mouth. You avoid contradictions, repeated phrases, and those awkward recoveries we all dread. And instead you begin speaking like someone who values their own words enough to think through them first. If you've ever been in a conversation and felt like you were speaking just to fill space, or you caught yourself rambling without a clear point, that's a signal. Not a signal that you're bad at communicating, but a signal that you haven't yet trained yourself to pause and organize. And the difference this makes isn't small, it's massive. Once you develop this skill, your words start landing differently. People start quoting you. They remember what you said. You stop being background noise, and start becoming a voice of direction. And that kind of voice gets remembered, gets respected, and gets invited into more important rooms. The clarity of your message always starts in your mind. That's the place you need to clean up first. Take time every day to practice thinking out loud, but with purpose. Pick one topic, one idea, and speak on it for 60 seconds. Not to be impressive, but to train structure. Begin with your main thought. Then explain it. Then close it with a clear point. Over and over again. Do it in front of a mirror. Do it into your phone recorder. Do it while walking or driving. You're not rehearsing speeches, you're developing the mental discipline of clear thinking, which leads directly to clear speaking. When you speak with clarity, people don't just hear your words, they feel your presence. They feel that you're not rushing, not guessing, not trying to remember a line. You're simply speaking what you believe, in a way that's easy to follow. That creates gravity. That builds credibility. You become someone whose voice carries weight, not because of how loud or dramatic it is, but because of how centered it is. And that kind of speech doesn't need to fight for attention. It earns it by default. You have to remember that communication is an energy exchange. If your energy is frantic, scattered, and unprepared, people feel that. They pull away, even if they're too polite to say it. But when your energy is calm, focused, and directed, they lean in. They feel safe listening to you. They open up, they trust. And that trust opens the door for real influence. That's what powerful communication is really about. It's not just being understood, it's being felt, being remembered, and being respected. And that begins the moment you decide to stop thinking mid-sentence and start thinking before it. This kind of presence is rare. It's the difference between those who just talk and those who speak. Talking is reactive. It's messy. It's often forgettable. But speaking, that's intentional. That's clear. That's grounded. And when you develop the habit of thinking with structure before you speak, you step into a new level of maturity in how you carry conversations, how you present ideas, and how you lead people's attention. You stop trying to prove your value with endless words and start proving it with the quality of every sentence. And that shift doesn't just change how others hear you, it changes how you see yourself. Once you learn to think clearly before you speak, you never go back. You can feel the difference. You feel the power of your own mind working for you instead of against you. You stop fearing silence because you know it's where clarity lives. You stop rushing because you realize the most powerful communicators are the ones who know exactly where they're going before they say a single word. And that's who you're becoming, not someone who speaks just to be heard, but someone who speaks to lead, to influence, and to leave an impression that outlasts the moment. Chapter 8. Speak with your whole body. Own the room. You can't fake presence. You can't fake that moment when you walk into a room and people sense that you carry something different. That something isn't about clothes, titles, or volume. It's about alignment. When your voice, your expression, your posture, your energy, when all of it works in harmony, you stop needing to fight for attention. You own it, and you don't even need to say much, because the way you carry yourself speaks louder than anything else. When your body speaks the same language as your words, that's when you're fully heard. That's when people not only listen, but they believe. Every time you communicate, your body is saying something, even if you don't realize it. The tilt of your head, the way you stand, your shoulders, your eyes, your hands. It's all information. It tells people if you're nervous or confident, if you believe in your words or you're just reciting them. The mistake a lot of people make is thinking communication is just about speaking clearly. But if your body is sending mixed signals, shrinking in, fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, your words lose power. Even if your message is strong, your presence gets lost in translation. That's why the real skill is to speak not just with your mouth, but with your entire body. And when you learn to do that, you become magnetic. Owning the room doesn't mean dominating it. It means being fully present in it. It means walking in with posture that shows you respect yourself. Shoulders relaxed but upright. Head level, eyes alert but calm. It means your energy says, I belong here, without needing to say a word. You don't have to be the loudest. You don't have to be the most talkative. But when you walk in like you're not apologizing for your space, people notice. They feel it, and they respond to it without even thinking. Because presence is felt before it's heard. A lot of communication anxiety comes from being disconnected from your own body. You get stuck in your head, overthinking what to say, rehearsing lines, worrying about judgment, and you forget that your body is the anchor. The more grounded you are physically, the more confident you become mentally. It works both ways. When your feet are planted, when your breath is steady, when your posture is strong, your thoughts stop racing. Your words come out cleaner. Your tone evens out. That's what it means to speak with your body. It's not performance, it's connection. You're creating an environment where your message has space to land. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about removing the tension that holds you back from being fully you. When you're stiff, when your hands are locked in place, when you keep hiding behind closed posture or nervous gestures, people feel the disconnect. But when your gestures are open, when your hands move naturally to emphasize a point, when your expressions match your message, suddenly your communication becomes real. It becomes dynamic. It becomes something people remember, because now it's not just information, it's an experience. The most powerful communicators aren't the ones who memorize everything. They're the ones who are connected to what they're saying. You can see it in their faces. You can hear it in their voices. You can feel it in how they move. When they speak, they use their whole body, not for show but because they're fully involved in their message. And that's what draws people in. That's what keeps them engaged. Because human beings respond to energy more than words. If your energy is low, disconnected, or anxious, your message gets diluted. But if your energy is full, grounded, and present, even simple words become powerful. You can feel the shift in yourself when you commit to this. When you stop holding back. When you speak with your hands, when you let your expressions flow naturally, when your entire body is supporting your voice instead of working against it. You feel more real. You feel more powerful. And so do the people listening to you. They feel your intention. They feel your belief. And they trust you more because of it. Communication isn't just about being understood. It's about being felt. And people can only feel you when you show up fully, body and all. That's the key to making an impact, without trying so hard. You don't need fancy words. You don't need to be dramatic. You just need to mean it, and let your body support it. That means being okay with taking up space. That means owning the silence between your sentences. That means letting your face reflect your passion. That means trusting that your presence, when fully aligned, is more than enough. You don't need to force connection. You just need to stop holding back what's already in you. Speaking with your whole body also means listening with your body. Being still when someone else speaks. Holding eye contact. Nodding with intention. Letting your physical attention show that you're present. That part of communication builds just as much trust as speaking does. When people see that you're not distracted, when they see that you're tuned in, they feel valued. They feel heard. And when you speak next, your words carry more weight, because your presence has already done the work of building connection. None of this requires you to become someone else. You're not adding anything fake. You're simply removing the tension, the overthinking, the fear that keeps you stiff. And once that's gone, what's left is someone real, someone expressive, someone who owns the space they speak in, not with arrogance, but with quiet strength. That's what lands. That's what stays. That's what makes you unforgettable. You don't need to wait for permission to start showing up like this. You don't need more credentials or more experience or more approval. You already have everything you need to start speaking with your full presence. You just need to stop hiding behind your thoughts and start supporting them with your body. The more you do that, the more natural it becomes. And before long, you'll realize something powerful. You don't have to force your way into anyone's attention. You just have to show up completely. And when you do, your body becomes your amplifier. Your presence becomes your message. And your voice becomes something no one can ignore. Chapter 9. Ask smart questions. Make conversations magnetic. The fastest way to stand out in a world where everyone is trying to be heard is to become the one who listens better than anyone else. Not just listens to reply, not just listens to nod along, but listens with purpose, with presence, with depth. And the key that unlocks this kind of connection isn't just found in your answers, it's found in the quality of your questions. Smart questions change everything. They shift the energy of a room. They create a sense of curiosity and respect. They make people feel valued. And they position you as someone who brings clarity wherever you go, simply because you're not focused on being interesting. You're focused on being interested. When you know how to ask the right questions, you immediately rise above the noise. People remember the person who made them think. They remember the person who asked something that stopped them in their tracks. They remember the person who wasn't trying to one-up them or steal the spotlight, but who made space for their story, their insight, their voice. That's the real power of smart communication. It's not just about speaking clearly, it's about inviting depth. And depth begins with better questions. Anyone can talk, but very few know how to lead a conversation. And the ones who do, they don't just talk endlessly about themselves. They guide the energy with intention. They ask questions that unlock truth. They don't settle for surface level. They're not afraid to pause. They make people feel safe enough to open up and sharp enough to stay alert. That balance of warmth and intelligence, of listening and leading, is rare, but it's also trainable. And when you get good at it, conversations stop feeling like effort. They start feeling like opportunities. Opportunities to build trust, to learn something new, to create a moment that's real and not just routine. Think about the last time you had a conversation that felt alive, where the energy was flowing, where time seemed to disappear. That didn't happen by accident. That happened because the questions being asked had weight. They came from curiosity, not from obligation. They invited emotion. They created space for clarity. And they allowed both people to feel seen and heard. That's the kind of presence you want to bring into every room, every interaction. The presence of someone who isn't just waiting to speak, but who's genuinely there to connect. Smart questions show confidence. Not the kind of confidence that needs to prove something, but the kind that comes from knowing you don't always need to have the answer to have value. That's a huge shift. When you realize that asking a good question can do more than giving a rushed opinion, you stop trying to impress people and start learning how to understand them. You stop chasing validation and start creating real connection. And in that shift, you stop being another voice in the crowd and start becoming someone who adds meaning to the moment. Asking great questions isn't about strategy. It's about awareness. It's about slowing down enough to actually hear what the other person is saying, and then following that thread with intention. It's about being present enough to go deeper. When someone tells you about a challenge, do you respond with your own story, or do you lean in and ask what they've learned from it? When someone shares a win, do you celebrate and move on, or do you ask what it took behind the scenes to make that win possible? Those small shifts change the entire tone of a conversation. They show people that you're not just listening, you're locked in, you care, and that creates impact far beyond anything scripted or rehearsed. The best communicators aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who leave others feeling most understood. And that understanding is created through intentional listening and thoughtful questioning. You can build trust in minutes when your questions are real, when they come from a place of wanting to know, not wanting to respond. That kind of energy can't be faked. People feel it, and they respond to it. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to know that what we say matters. You can give someone that gift simply by asking a better question. This isn't just about making conversations more interesting. It's about changing how people experience you. When you become known as someone who asks questions that matter, you start getting invited into rooms where depth is valued. You become someone others seek out for clarity, not chaos. You create space for truth, not noise. And you start seeing the impact of that everywhere, from your personal relationships to your professional growth. Because people remember who made them feel understood. People remember who gave them a space to speak. People remember who brought clarity in a world full of confusion. Asking smart questions doesn't require you to be perfect. It just requires you to be present, to show up fully, to put down your agenda and tune into the moment. And from that place you can lead any conversation into something more meaningful. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be curious enough to explore what matters. That curiosity is what creates magnetism. It's what makes your communication feel alive. It's what turns a forgettable exchange into a powerful connection. You have the ability to do that right now. You don't need to wait until you're more confident or more experienced or more skilled. You just need to care enough to ask, to really ask, to listen with your eyes, to hear between the words, to be the one in the room who's not trying to impress but trying to understand. That's the person who wins the conversation. That's the person who makes impact feel effortless. And that's the person people come back to again and again, not because they had all the right things to say, but because they knew how to ask the right thing at the right time. Your voice has power, but your questions, they have the potential to unlock someone else's. And when you start using them with purpose, you stop chasing attention and start creating it. You stop being part of the noise and start becoming the reason someone feels heard. That's the real mark of a confident communicator, not how well they speak, but how well they listen and how deeply they make others feel understood. That's what makes your presence unforgettable. That's what makes your conversations magnetic. And that's what builds a voice people trust, respect, and remember. Chapter 10. Train in the mirror, your most honest coach. The mirror doesn't lie. It reflects everything. Your posture, your eye contact, your hesitation, your tone, your presence. And if you really want to master how you speak, if you want to own your voice in a way that feels natural, powerful, and effortless, the mirror is where it starts. You don't need an audience. You don't need a stage. You don't even need approval. What you need is the courage to stand in front of your reflection and face the truth of how you communicate. Because the moment you stop guessing and start observing yourself from the outside is the moment everything begins to shift. The truth is, people spend their whole lives trying to become better communicators without ever seeing how they actually look and sound when they speak. They have no idea how much they mumble. They don't realize their voice trails off. They don't notice the nervous fidgeting, the constant shifting, the lack of facial expression. And the reason it keeps happening is because no one ever showed them the power of self-awareness. When you train in front of a mirror, you remove the blindfold. You see yourself with full honesty. You catch the habits you didn't know you had. And once you see them, you can start changing them. This isn't about performance. This is about alignment. You want your words to match your body. You want your energy to match your message. And when those things don't align, people don't always know what's wrong, but they feel it. They sense the mismatch. They hear the uncertainty. They notice the lack of conviction. And in those moments, even the strongest message starts to lose power. But when everything about you lines up, your voice, your eyes, your hands, your posture, that's when you become magnetic. That's when people stop checking their phones and start locking in. That's when your presence becomes undeniable. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. When you stand in front of a mirror and speak from your chest, when you look yourself in the eye and deliver your message like it matters, you build the kind of self-trust that doesn't come from compliments. It comes from reps, from practice, from choosing to get better on your own time, from deciding that you care enough about your growth to put in the work that no one sees. Because that's what separates people who sound confident from people who actually are. It's not a personality trait, it's a muscle, and the mirror is the gym. Think about what happens when you watch a clip of yourself speaking. The first time is uncomfortable. You cringe. You hear your voice and think, do I really sound like that? You notice every awkward pause, every weak moment. And it's tempting to look away, to shut it down and tell yourself you're just not good at this. But if you push through that first reaction, if you keep watching, keep observing, keep listening, something changes. You stop judging and start noticing. You start seeing the patterns. You start identifying the little things that once fixed will completely elevate your presence. That's how improvement begins. Not with praise, but with clarity. The mirror gives you clarity. It gives you the chance to coach yourself, to correct your posture in real time, to adjust your tone, to find your rhythm, to practice being fully expressive. It's a space where you can stumble, experiment, grow, without pressure, without noise, without anyone else's opinion. It's where your real voice starts to emerge. Not the filtered one you use when you're nervous, not the guarded one you use when you're unsure, but the version of you that speaks with truth, with calm intensity, with complete alignment between what you feel and what you say. When you start doing this daily, it becomes a ritual, a reset, a moment of presence where you're not trying to impress anyone, you're just building skill. And that skill compounds. Each time you show up in front of that mirror, you're stacking confidence. Not the fake kind, not the kind that fades under pressure, but the kind that grows through self-awareness. You start walking into rooms differently. You start speaking without second-guessing. You start commanding attention, not because you're louder, but because your energy is cleaner, sharper, grounded. Every great communicator has done the work behind closed doors. They've faced themselves. They've corrected their habits. They've watched the footage. They've stood in front of the mirror and fine-tuned the smallest details until it became instinct. That's why they sound the way they do. That's why people listen to them, because they've already put in the invisible hours. You have that same opportunity, right now, today. No one's stopping you from training. No one's stopping you from stepping in front of the mirror and sharpening your voice until it cuts through doubt like a blade. You won't be perfect. You're not supposed to be, but you'll be better. And better is what changes your life. Better is what turns interviews into job offers. Better is what makes people remember your name. Better is what builds trust, earns respect, and opens doors that used to stay shut. And all of that starts with the decision to stop avoiding yourself, to stop hoping your voice magically improves, to stop waiting for the moment when you feel ready. You get ready by practicing. You build confidence by facing yourself. And the mirror is where that begins. The way you speak will either open the world up to you or keep you locked out of your own potential. You have something valuable to say, but until your voice reflects that value, it stays trapped. Training in the mirror is how you unlock it. It's how you meet the version of yourself that doesn't hesitate, doesn't crumble under pressure, doesn't shrink in the face of attention. You meet the version that knows how to speak with certainty, with calm strength, with clarity. That version isn't a dream. It's who you become when you do the reps. And the mirror is waiting. So stop doubting your voice. Start building it. Speak your truth where no one's watching, so that when the world is you're ready. That's how you grow. That's how you lead. That's how you speak with confidence that doesn't fade. You've always had the power. Now it's time to train it. Every day. In front of the one person who always tells the truth. Yourself.